Welcome to Hello Therapy, a podcast to help you take charge of your mental health through evidence-based psychological tips and tools straight from the therapy room so that you can live life better. Have you ever noticed that when your anxiety kicks in, your inner voice can be brutal? Why can't I just handle this panic attack? I'm such a failure for feeling anxious yet again. Now, what if I told you that this harsh, self-critical voice actually fuels your anxiety? Now, imagine if instead of criticizing yourself, you treated yourself with the same kindness and understanding that you would offer to a close friend. And that's where self-compassion comes in. And it is an absolute game changer for managing anxiety. In this episode, I'm going to talk about why self-compassion works and how you can start using self-compassion to help anxiety today. So before we dive into how self-compassion can actually help anxiety, let's talk about what self-compassion is. Self-compassion is just treating yourself with kindness, with warmth, with support and understanding, especially when you're going through something tough. Now that sounds obvious, right? But a lot of us are our own worst enemy. We criticize ourselves, we judge ourselves, we push ourselves harder and harder, particularly when we feel like we're not doing so well. Now, Associate Professor Kristen Neff, who has done a lot of research in the area of self-compassion, defines self-compassion using three key elements. The first is self-kindness. So that means being gentle and understanding with yourself rather than harshly critical. The second is common humanity. So this element really taps into that you're not alone in this. You're not alone in experiencing this anxiety. Everybody struggles with difficult experiences sometimes. And the third element is mindfulness. And this means acknowledging your emotions without getting lost in them. Now, let's talk about the link between self-compassion and anxiety. Here's what happens. When you are anxious, your brain's fight or flight response is in full flow. Your body reacts as if there is a real threat, even if the threat is just meeting your friends for lunch or doing an exam, or even just your own thoughts. But when you criticize yourself in those moments, when you say things like, oh, I can't believe I'm getting anxious again. Why do I always do this? Why can't I handle this properly? You're essentially pouring petrol on the anxiety fire. So your anxiety spikes even further. Self-compassion, on the other hand, works the opposite way. When you practice self-compassion, your body starts to feel safe again. It activates the parasympathetic nervous system, which is your body's calming system. It helps you feel calm and soothed. And this in turn reduces the physical symptoms of anxiety, like shallow breathing, racing heart rate, and it helps your brain stop spinning in anxious thoughts. So essentially, when you offer yourself understanding instead of self-criticism, you are telling your brain, it's okay. I am safe. This is hard, but I can get through it. And that changes everything. Now, often when I start talking about self-compassion with my clients, what often comes up is barriers or blocks. So things like, I have to be self-critical because that's how I get things done. Or the self-criticism helps push me further. It helps me succeed in life. So just notice, is that coming up for you? What is your mind saying as I talk about this idea of self-compassion and using self-compassion when you're anxious? So moving on to the science behind self-compassion. Now, a growing body of evidence, so lots and lots of studies, show that self-compassion can play a key role in alleviating symptoms of depression, symptoms of stress, and anxiety. There is even studies to show that the more self-compassionate you are, the lower your cortisol levels in response to stress, which is really interesting because it shows that self-compassion can act as a buffer to stress. Self-compassion isn't just psychological, it's physiological. It shifts your brain out of fight or flight mode, making it easier to manage anxiety. Think of it like this. When you are anxious, it's like your brain is like a car stuck in overdrive. Your anxiety just keeps revving and revving and revving up. But when you practice self compassion, you are metaphorically putting the brakes on. You are letting your nervous system slow down and come back to balance. So, I've taken you through why self compassion is so powerful in managing anxiety. Now, I'm going to take you through how to actually practice it. So, first, speak to yourself like you would a friend. So, the next time you're anxious, ask yourself this: how would I support a close friend going through an anxious or panicky moment? And what I want you to do here is to try and really drop into a memory that you have of really helping someone, helping a friend who was going through a tough time or was feeling really anxious, and really think about, okay, what did I say to that friend? What was my demeanor like? What did I do? How did I offer that support? Now, usually in these kind of situations, we offer kind words, don't we? So it's okay, you're going to get through this. You show that you understand. So you may say something like, I can really see that you're going through a hard time. And you may offer some help. So you may say, what can I do to help you? Or you may give your friend a hug. And now what I want you to do is I want you to turn that around and think about doing those things for yourself. So the next time you are feeling anxious or the next time you're starting to feel a panic attack coming on, can you offer yourself some words of comfort, just like you would your friend? Or would it be helpful to try and remember this idea of common humanity? So I am not the only person in the world that's ever experienced anxiety before. I'm not alone in this. And I think you will be surprised at how this can really quite quickly shift the experience of anxiety for you. It won't take it away instantaneously. That's not what we're after here. It's much more about starting to calm down that nervous system. So, technique number 2 is practice self-compassionate touch. Now, we know that physical touch releases the hormone oxytocin, which is essentially a hormone that helps you feel calm and connected. So the next time you're feeling anxious, try placing a hand over your heart area, or hold your hand, or even give yourself a gentle hug. Now, some people can find this quite awkward and a little bit cheesy, but what I would invite you to do is to give it a go, because you might find that actually it really helps. Because remember that self-compassionate touch signals to your brain that you are safe. Now, the third and final technique is mindfulness meditation. And this is a really great way to cultivate self-compassion. Now, this does not need to be complicated. You can just spend a few minutes each day just sitting calmly, focusing on the breath, gently acknowledging your thoughts without judgment. And if you notice self-critical thoughts jumping in, simply label them as thoughts and then shift your attention back to your breathing. And the idea is that if you can do a little bit each day, it is like you are building a mindfulness muscle, and it helps you build the habit of observing your internal experiences, anxiety included, without getting caught up in it. And that is a really key skill when it comes to coping with anxiety. So I hope that's given you a really good overview of why self-compassion is really, really crucial when it comes to managing anxiety. Remember, all of this stuff takes time to master. These are skills that you can practice over time. But I know from years of working with clients in my therapy room that if you can practice self-compassion on a regular basis, it really does help anxiety and particularly stress levels as well. So that brings us to the end of the episode. If you found value in the episode today, please do consider subscribing to the podcast. It really helps the podcast reach new listeners. Until next time. Thank you for listening to this episode of Hello Therapy. If you found it helpful, don't forget to subscribe, follow, and review. You can get more well-being and mental health tips by joining our email list and visiting the resources section of our website at harleyclinical.co.uk. The Hello Therapy podcast and the information provided by me, Dr. Liz White, is solely intended for information and educational purposes and does not constitute personalised advice. Please do reach out to your GP or a mental health professional if you need support. Until next time, take care of yourself.